Good morning, team. It is Tuesday, July 23rd. I'm Amy Corr. I'm here with Kevin Van Eck for another great coffee. Yes. I am excited about this one. We're going to talk a little bit about active patience. Yes, if you're like me at all, you're probably already cringing at the words active patience. We'll tell you more about it. But first, make sure you grab your coffee. We hope it's piping hot. Kevin's is so full that if I make him laugh too much, it might spill. So I'm going to give it my best shot.
Thanks. I'll try to keep it on the table.
All right, and let's jump into the next episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin.
Yes, good morning, Amy. Good morning, everyone. Yes, if you're not aware of what active patience is, we'll talk through it and how you can apply it in different areas of your life and your business and your day-to-day activities. But it's something that's really important that we all need to work on, whether we think we have it or not, because without active patience, we make poor decisions, we rush into things, bad things happen. Mm-hmm. So this is something good for all of us to practice.
Yeah, and full disclosure, I actually was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago where they talked about this, and I loved it because I, by nature, am not always a patient person, and I know in real estate as agents, we aren't, right? We're in the flow, we fly by the seat of our pants, we go from moment to moment, and we kind of live for the excitement of just going for stuff, right?
That's right.
And sometimes we do that, but then we get really frustrated because things don't work out as intended, right? And the reality is there's a lot going on in this market right now that I think calls for patience. And I liked the term active patience because, I mean, I can't tell you how many times growing up my mom would be like, just be patient, just be patient. But by saying active, it's almost like being aware of the fact that I need to be patient in certain areas. And so,
intentional.
Yeah, intentional. And so there were 4 areas that we're going to kind of break down today, but I just thought it was so right on. And I thought right now, given what's going on in a lot of agents' businesses, what's going on in our industry, patience really is a virtue, something that we really kind of all have to focus on. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into really kind of the first one we talk about, which is patience with ourselves. And I know for me, that's probably one of the hardest because, again, I always jump into things and I want great results really fast. And I think we have to all really be patient right now with this market. Again, there's a lot of new things happening with changes in the NAR settlement and how it's going to maybe change the way we do business and the way we talk with our clients. We have to be a little bit patient with ourselves and know that we've got to be willing to do things, but they may not always come out perfectly, right?
Right.
For example, a lot of us right now are really starting to figure out how do I get comfortable talking with my buyers and really kind of cutting my teeth on talking about a buyer brokerage agreement, getting them to sign it, articulating my value. And here's what I'm going to tell everyone. Every agent, brand new, 25 years in the business, are all a little impatient and kind of nervous about how this is going to roll out because it's new. It's something that we have to try, and we're not going to be doing it perfectly. And we might get some no's, we might get some pushback. So I think rule number 1 is be patient with ourselves as it comes to the changes that are coming into play. As we are agents, depending on also where you're at in your business, being patient and being willing to try things and being willing to fail, right? I think, in the podcast, they talked a lot about, you do your first open house and you don't get anybody to come, or people come, but you don't get any clients out of it. So what do most agents do? They want to just bail on open houses. These don't work for me, right? You got to be patient. I mean, what was your first open house like?
Yeah, it was probably terrible.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I've blocked it out because of the trauma.
PTSD, right?
Yes.
It took me a while to figure out how to host a good open house. And then I figured out what are some of the things I should say or do. But it's because I kept trying it, right? I didn't just give up after the first time. I had a little bit of patience about allowing the process to go. Same thing with building up your clientele. You've got to really sort of be patient that you can't just expect to come in, start real estate or be in it for a few years and become the top producer in your area. When you look at it, it took years, even decades for some people to hit what they did in their business, so it's having patience. And I also think being patient is also playing your own game. Kind of playing at your own pace, focusing on your own niche, and kind of, getting out of anybody else's lane, but I think you've got to be patient. You've got to really sort of just focus on taking those steps that you need to in order to see longer term outcomes, right? So patience with yourself and patting yourself on the back, because even if you are failing, it means that you're doing something. You're actually trying.
Yes. And you're learning.
Yeah, and you know what? If you blow it a couple times, you know why you blew it. You're not going to do it the third time or the fourth time. Same with a listing presentation, right? We've all been there. I've blown it so many times.
Right. What are you going to do? Not go on listing presentations anymore?
Yeah. So I think that's number one. With yourself, be patient, trust in your process, take your action, and over time, it really will pay off.
Absolutely. Give yourself some grace.
Yep.
Number two is with your business, right? So specific to, you mentioned a little bit about business growth. We all have big goals, big plans that we go into every year with, whether we want to hit a certain volume amount, transaction amount, or as you said, a new agent comes in and thinks they're going to blow it out of the water right away. It doesn't work that way, or at least it doesn't work that way sustainably.
Right.
Meaning some people experience rapid growth, and we see it all the time where new agents get into the business and they have an immediate hit.
Yep.
Year one is fabulous. Year two, things start to dip.
Yep.
And oftentimes it's because we're not giving ourselves patience, and we don't have patience with our business. We're not doing the things to sustain the business. And I'm reminded of something that one of our agents said at the past Christie's International Real Estate Conference a few weeks ago. And it was Casey Lesher. Casey Lesher is the number one agent in Orange County in California. He's with Christie's International Real Estate, Southern California. And the number one thing he said is patience and consistency. It took him to get to number one in that market since 2006.
Okay.
So
18 years.
18 years.
Wow.
So, and many people have been in the business for 18 years and haven't become number one in the market. He said the key differentiator was the consistency and patience over that amount of time, knowing that others will stop doing the things that create success. So patience in our business, it's everything as simple as starting a direct mail campaign and keeping it going, even if you don't get any contacts, outreach, leads, business from it in the first 3 months.
Yeah.
We see all the time agents cancel their marketing campaigns too soon.
Yep.
They haven't given it time to actually work. And we know too from other business executives and leaders like Gary Vee, who talks consistently about give yourself some time, give yourself patience. It's going to work if you do the right things. Don't quit and don't become frustrated with yourself. Building something great doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, I love that because it's the long game. You can't look
right.
at this as a sprint. It's certainly a marathon. And different miles are going to bring bigger challenges, right? And you're just going to have to keep pacing through them to get to where you want to be. I think the other one that they talked about, which I also love, and I think a lot of us need right now, is patience with this market that we're in, patience with the market. Yes. There's a lot of things, levers out there that are really outside of our control. And I think if we rely too much on what's happening in the market, that can greatly impact, our results because we're worried so much about what's happening in the market. Most agents, if you look at a lot of agents who've had really great business growth, they've actually done extraordinarily well during what we call the bad or the down markets, right? And it's because they weren't relying on the market for their outcome. They were really knowing lack of inventory. Okay, I might have to be a little bit more patient. It's going to take me longer to get my buyer into a property, so I'm going to have to adjust, knowing that these are the market conditions. But what does that tell me? I need to make sure then that I know about, or I'm doing a great job of even going after more inventory. I have a lot of agents right now who have buyers, and if they can't find them something, they're trying to find it in the market. They're reaching out to people, right? But, I think being patient is also just knowing that, you're kind of in a market and being able to adjust to those conditions and not freak out, not blame your success or your failure on the amount of inventory, interest rates, right? Sellers not moving. Those are all market conditions, right? But what can you control when we've got market conditions? You can control what you're doing, right? And that is back to what you had said, creating a consistent plan so that whatever market you're in, the actions you're taking are going to create the outcomes, right? People, I think, again, rely too much on kind of blaming the market. And that's the other thing too, is with these market conditions, be patient with the market. you yourself be patient, but I think it's really important to talk with your clients about being patient with the market, right?
Absolutely.
And that it's all a timing situation, and that, the right home will be out there, the right buyer will be out there, right? But just really making sure that it isn't just about you being patient with the market, but making sure that you set that expectation for clients right now as well.
It's a great point. Talking about clients, it's also important to have patience with our clients.
And we know that can be really hard, really hard. Yes.
But remember that, we do this every day. So when there's a stressful situation for us, you have to 10x it for your clients, because this is an emotional event for them when they're buying, searching. You've been through multiple offers how many times? But your clients, this may be their first time.
Yeah.
And so put yourself in their shoes, have some empathy, understand what they're going through, and give them the confidence, like you're saying, give them the patience to understand what's happening. But you have to have patience with them, because otherwise, if you don't, we end up saying or doing or behaving in ways that we're not proud of later. And we may end up actually blowing opportunities, future opportunities and referrals. So having patience for your clients, understanding what they're going through, the language they're using, downplaying any stress or tamping down any stress by using your confidence and expertise to be able to guide them.
Yeah. Remember, this is a long game. So you've got to be ready to play the long game, because I'm going to tell you, in a year, that market is going to look completely different. Your business might look completely different. So we're going to cue in Axl Rose now, right?
Patience.
Yes, a little bit of patience.
Just a little patience.
Amy was going to sing it, but we decided that was...
No, bad idea. Bad idea.
Fly.
Yeah. So on that note, make it a great Tuesday. Active patience. Make sure you start thinking about how that looks in your business. Make it a great week until we see you next time. Remember, you got this.